with the All right, it looks like everything's been properly set up. Welcome everyone to the I believe this is the second day of round two. With me is not quite Alba. We have a new commentator up here in the box. I would like everyone to be introduced to Muted. Feel free to speak for yourself here.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm a new commentator. It's going to be the first match that I'm commentating today. I'm excited here to be with Dragon Gamer. We do have HexagonMC versus Unsorted today, so we'll see how both teams fare.
There is now. This is interesting, as I believe last time we saw neither of these trainers, neither of these teams doing some pretty unique teams. I'll have to double check the statistics last time, and it looks like Freeze will be being the referee for this. This is going to be interesting as we get a brief insight potentially into how each of these work. What do you think are your insights into this? It's nice to get a fresh perspective from here.
Yeah, I think both teams, obviously last round, I didn't watch too much, but they both had quite unique setups. So it'll be very interesting to see how both teams fare against one another, since these are a bit more teams that have been less mainstream than others. So you won't get off scot-free by just knowing the default interactions between the Pokemon here.
While that is true, there is something to keep in mind. These teams will likely be different than last time. We saw that last night between Astral and Scarlet Korea, where we saw the stall teams being a little bit more offensive.
Yeah, obviously, swapping teams between rounds is always a good idea. You don't want your opponent to be prepared for your team whilst you're unprepared for their swap team. So we'll just really have to see what both teams are bringing here.
And it looks like we get confirmation on who will be going first. It's going to be between it looks like it's between AO and Tolga. This is interesting, as I do believe both of these trainers have made a good amount of progress for their team. I'll have to double check these prior match amount announcements. I do believe, if I'm getting confirmation, it is Unsorted and Hexagon MC. Let me check really quickly.
Olga is ready for the match. We do need confirmation still from A05346. Both battlers are ready now, so I suspect soon we will get this match underway.
Well, unfortunately, we still do not get exactly access to their team previews quite yet. So we'll have to see when the battle begins, what kind of lead they start off with. Usually, a good way to determine what kind of team they're running is what they lead. So the question remains, how is this going to start? Keep in mind, we saw usually the most common leads being Gliscor and Landorus, but we'll have to see for ourselves whether these two teams break that trend.
Yeah, we just have to wait for the match to get underway here. Currently, it seems we are about to start. We'll wait confirmation from our referee Freeze here, but I'm excited for this match.
There we go. I do believe the battle is soon going to begin. There we go. We finally get insight. I believe I looked at it last time. At least between there we go. We get confirmation. AO not quite doing well, at least in the first match. We'll have to see if they potentially redeem themselves here. And it looks like we'll have to see for ourselves what happens, as I do believe there we go. I do believe the trainers are still determining their teams here. As a reminder, just for decent etiquette, do keep in mind to keep this space free so we get a little better insight into these Pokemon.
Yeah, let me just quickly turn myself down a small bit here. I think I'm ready to go.
Perfect, perfect. And it looks like this is going to be interesting as I don't believe we've seen. There we go. We get confirmation
There
now,
we
and it
go.
looks
Interesting
like
leads here.
this is very much interesting. We Grimmsnarl is usually a common lead on hyper offense teams, but what is Clefable doing out right now?
Clefable possibly looking for that early teleport pivot here. Grimmsnarl probably likely to just set up one of either screens right here.
Grimmsnarl going for the toss. Clefable falls for it, and Clefable immediately gunning for Moonblast. Actually, a
Predicting the taunt there,
very
possibly.
that was actually a very wise play in this part. Instead deciding to forfeit any kind of rocks or anything for damage. This is going to be a tough choice, as I do believe with that amount of damage, 2 more Moonblasts will be enough to KO, assuming AO here goes for Light Screen.
They'll here probably have to set up light screen this next turn. Could be a damage roll if he doesn't set up light screen, so that's probably not what he wants. Probably wants to keep this Grimmsnarl alive here, so we'll see if he just sets up a light screen or just decides to swap out entirely.
Do keep in mind though that there we go, Grimmsnarl setting up Light Screen, probably with Light Crack play, and very much it's definitely either a roll or a straight up knockout here. I would be confident in saying it's a knockout. The question remains, of course, what does Grimmsnarl go for here? Do they go for Double Reflect for it to be removed later and potentially sacking it? Or does it go for something like Parting Shot to keep it alive a little more? It comes Grimmsnarl going for Reflect, and this Grimmsnarl very much has the opportunity now to come back in at a later point and reset those screens.
Yeah, do remind guys, Grimmsnarl's typing is both do resist the dark type pursuit here, so Grimmsnarl can swap out against this Tyranitar.
Hmm. Something to keep in mind, though, at least for this kind of situation, is I do believe Tolga might potentially be running a sand team here, at least if they're running Tyranitar. We're not certain. In comes the Ferrothorn as Tyranitar sets up rocks.
Terraform with
I
both their screens up, very hard to remove. Probably a
hmm.
free gateway into setting up some entry hazards of their own against this Tyranitar right here. As we await their next move.
And it looks like potentially with bated breath. This is a very tough situation for Tolga right now. Not only are both screens up, um, this Tyranitar likely doesn't have the ability to KO the Ferrothorn, while Ferrothorn very much threatens both it and Clefable with Gyro Ball. Um, Granted, we don't know what set AO's Ferrothorn could be running. For all we know, it could be knockoff or Power Whip.
Could be knockoff or power whip, but both options probably very good against this Tyranitar. Removing this Tyranitar's item would be huge for AO, and setting up entry hazards is probably also a no-brainer. Whilst both Reflect and Light Screen are up, I don't think there's any way for this Tyranitar to threaten this Ferrothorn here.
We could potentially see get lucky with crits. I've seen it myself. I've seen some very clutch plays. There we go. Ferrothorn going for the Thunder Wave, a very excellent play on AO's part, guaranteeing that something has a chance to not move. And I would imagine even with something like Regenerator Tornadus, it is crippled in this situation.
Yeah, obviously Tornadus Variant here, usually used as a pretty offensive pivot here. So it being paralyzed and having its speed stat cut in half, very huge for AO here. We'll see what this Tornadus Variant can do against this Ferrothorn. But I think whilst both screens are up, I don't think this Ferrothorn is leaving the field anytime soon.
Tornado's going for knockoff to remove the leftovers, removing passive recovery, which is very important. Question remains though, what does this Ferrothorn do in this situation? I don't think Gyro Ball will be dealing nearly as much damage here. And Tornadoes do usually run Heat Wave when in Therian Thorn. Oh my gosh, I'm having a stroke. Anyways,
Yeah, possibly not going for that Heat Wave and trying to predict the switching with Knockoff. Knockoff always an excellent choice here. We will see though. The Sandstorm that was set up by Tyranitar actually favoring AO here, and now it will U-turn out.
look like it will recover its all of its health or most of it thanks to Regenerator. As Ferrothorn going for knockoff and removing Tangro's Rocky Helmet. It looks like we do have a regenerator core. However, I do believe Tangrowth is significantly more niche than other options. Could this potentially be a leech seed set? And if that's the case, what could this Ferrothorn even do against something like oh, what could Tangrowth do against Ferrothorn here?
Yeah, both Pokemon here very defensive, resist each other quite well. I don't think any of these Pokemon are going to get removed here. So we'll see what both fighters are thinking here. Did knock off the Rocky Helmet. Could definitely help his physical attackers by not taking too much chip damage in the future. I think AO here can just freely set up any other entry hazard it has, but it is the question what the Ferrothorn is running in this situation and what the
We,
Tangrowth
s-
is running.
we saw earlier that Stealth Rocks and knockoff. That much is true. In comes In goes the Tornadus once again as Ferrothorn goes for another Thunder Wave.
We do now have the confirmation that this Tornadus is heavy duty boots. So we'll see if Tolga here swaps out into a different Pokemon, again going for that U-turn, or if he does, if he is backing Heat Wave. I do think both screens are going to run out soon, or already have. So maybe Tolga just playing around those screens there, waiting to be able to remove this Ferrothorn. Just waiting on what both fighters are thinking right now.
So now this is going to be an interesting conundrum for HexagonMC. Swapping back into Tangrowth here as Aloma Mola comes out. Both these trainers are running very defensive cores. However, I do think this kind of format does encourage this.
Yeah, defensive core is definitely heavily favored from all the battles we've seen so far. Do, did swap in a Lomomola versus Tangrowth though, possibly an advantage for Tolga here. Light Screen will wear off, swapping
Out
back
comes
into
Lomomola into
Ferrothorn.
the Pharaoh. As Tangrowth goes for Sleep Powder, the Sandstorm has, of course, subsided, though. As Ferrothorn's Reflect will wear off now, this is going to be a tough, this is going to be interesting. Sandstorm Chip no longer being a factor. Do keep in mind, though, that this Ferrothorn is likely, I'm not entirely certain what this Ferrothorn is running right now. Do keep in mind, though, Iron Barbs will prevent a good amount of pivoting.
Yeah, Iron Barb's obviously going to be a huge detriment to anything not packing Regenerator here.
Tangrowth going for Giga Drain as Ferrothorn once again goes for Knockoff.
Both
This
Pokemon here taking very little damage.
In comes the Tornadus as Fairthorn goes for Thunder Wave. Tornadus is already paralyzed, however.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
predictions by Tolga here with that Thunder Wave, but I don't know what this Tornadus can realistically do against this Fairphone here. Oh!
Oh, unfortunately, missing the heat wave there.
Yeah, that Heat Wave could have been huge. Most would have definitely taken out this Fairphone. Very unfortunate for Tolga here, and now AO does know that that Tornadus is a massive threat through the Fairphone, so yeah, quickly swapping out there.
Ooh, this is interesting. Once again, heat wave being failed, thanks very much due to paralysis this time. Of course, the question remains: what is this Grimstarl choosing to do?
Again, pretty unlucky for Tolga here. That Grimmsnarl. Well, I guess it doesn't matter in there, but Grimmsnarl does get up another light screen as Tyranitar is swapped back in for that sand. And the Grimmsnarl will die to the sand.
Out comes the Garchomp to immediately threaten the Tyranitar out. If that's the risk they want to go for. Of course, it naturally remains. What is this Garchomp going to do? This Pokemon is notorious for running quite a lot of sets. We've seen Tank Chomp. We've seen a Swords Dance Sweeper thanks to Scale Shot.
Yeah, Garchomp really a jack of all trades Pokemon here. Very much threatening this Tyranitar with that stab Earthquake. We will see what Tolga is going to do here, but Garchomp pretty good in this matchup, I'd say.
And it looks like potentially keep in mind though, even if they do decide to swap over toward the Tornadus Therian, Garchomp is faster thanks to the paralysis, and it can have the opportunity to set up a Swords Dance, meaning that unless Toa goes for a major offensive play right now, this Garchomp is looking incredibly dangerous. Something to keep in mind too is that we don't know if this Garchomp is Mega Garchomp, and if that's the case, it's even boosted by Sand Force as well.
Yeah, this Garchomp, incredibly diverse, incredibly threatening. We'll just have to see what AO comes out with here.
There we go. We
It
got
is the Mega
confirmation. Garchomp
Garchomp.
going for Earthquake here. There is that Sand Force coming in. This Clefable can no longer remain safe in this situation. Do keep in mind though that I do believe Garchomp here um is not quite slower. Clefable going for Protect, trying to stall as much as it can, as Leftovers does recover some HP. However, I do think this is still a safe KO from this range. Sandstorm raging harshly, very much in favor of AO here.
Yeah, this Sandstorm being set up by Tyranitar. Good play by AO to take advantage of the opponent's Sandstorm here. This Mega Garchomp incredibly threatening with that huge attack stat boosted by Sand Force. We'll just wait to see what response Toad can have to this
Out
massive
comes
threat
the
on the field.
Tangrowth, and in comes the out comes the Tangrowth. Earthquake still dealing a very good amount of damage. Keep in mind too, Tangrowth, although it can regenerate her out, is probably not going to be very appreciative of something like Dragon Claw or Scale Shot coming out. Garchomp
Fire
going for
Fang
Fire Fang instead, dealing a good amount of damage and setting
and
up a
that
big
burn,
burn.
that hidden power will be super effective, not dealing a lot of damage to the Garchomp though.
If that's HP Ice, that's actually incredibly impressive.
Yeah, we'll have to speculate what hidden power that was, but I do believe that hidden power ice would have dealt quite a bit of more damage. But, but I don't know what else it could
Out
be.
comes the Tangrowth. In comes a Garchomp of their own as Garchomp once again lands a Fire Fang. However, I do think this Garchomp is faster, and at least from this range, will safely KO the Mega Garchomp. AO is no longer safe to go with this set.
Very smart play by Tolga there.
Garchomp going for Scale Shot here and increasing their speed. This might be enough to run away with the game.
Yeah, especially if Toga's Garchomp's also packing Fire Fang. Darkrai coming
Ooh,
out
this is
here.
interesting.
Unless
Bring
this
out
is Scarf, I do believe Toga's Garchomp will be faster here. We'll have to wait and see.
that might be
Obviously,
exactly what Tolga might be expecting though, as I do think any kind of ice attack coming out, while it would be safe on something like Garchomp, probably there's something in the back that will be able to handle it quite nicely. Potentially the Tyranitar we saw earlier.
yeah, the Tyranitar does have to be wary of Focus Blast, but otherwise, I don't think the Darkrai will be able to threaten the Tyranitar too much. This Darkrai, though, massively threatening this Garchomp right now. If it is that Choice Scarf, I'll have
That
to
is the
wait and
question
see
that
until Toga
remains. If
responds.
this Darkrai outspeeds and KOs, things are very much in AO's favor. Swapping over to Clefable, as once again the Clefable is set in very low HP. Sandstorm has been removed as leftovers comes back in. This is going to be a tough choice as I'm not certain. Ice Beam, there we go. Ice Beam KOs the Clefable.
We'll knock out the Clefable there. Pretty, pretty huge threat on the field right now. This Darkrai, Tyranitar will come out, and perhaps that is why they sacked the Clefable there to allow that Sandshreed to be set up for that extra special defense for the Tyranitar there.
The question now remains, is this a proper scarf set, or was AO baiting this entire time?
If it uses any other move than Ice Beam or swapping out, that could have been a huge play by AO there. This Tyranitar, though, if it is Scarf, definitely extremely threatening to this Darkrai right now. But we do know that AO has plenty of remaining switch-ins. We'll have to see what Tyranitar does here. Maybe a possible Pursuit coming out for that extra little bit of damage on the Darkrai. Perhaps both or one of our fighters really deciding what to do here. Double switching here. Alomomola comes in for the Darkrai, and the Tornadus will come in for the Tyranitar. Who do you think
This
has
is
the advantage here in this situation?
this is actually a interesting choice. Both of them are befriended by the Sandstorm, but keep in mind, Alomomola has a very good pivot move, and the Tornadus is still paralyzed. I would definitely say AO still has the advantage here. Um, it's actually even slower than Tornadus, even while it's paralyzed. It's actually kind of impressive here. Although do keep in mind, I do believe Therian does get 111 defense as Aloma Mullet goes for Scald, and it looks like a Garchomp actually immediately got a speed boost. That's actually interesting. Although we'll have to see whether or not that will matter here. Scald dealing a significant amount of damage to the Garchomp, and if this Garchomp gets burned, things are going to be looking very bad. Unless it's running Lumberry, of course, but that's not as frequent.
Yeah, very interesting to see there. Mega Garchomp will be coming out for Tolga as well. I'm going to use that skill shot against the Alomomola here. Massive damage, hitting 4 times.
And it looks like the Garchomp is going to be hit with another Scald, still not handing that burn that AO desperately needs. Things are looking very good for Tolga right now. It comes to Ferrothorn, which will immediately faint to Earthquake.
Yeah, the Sandstorm, the Sandforce Garchomp in the Sandstorm right now, extremely threatening for Tolga here. Did get that speed boost, and I think we saw that it did get that speed boost twice. Alomomola coming back out here, probably looking to deal some extra damage to this Garchomp, utilizing that regenerator ability to get back a major chunk of its health here.
I would imagine the problem is I do imagine Earthquake is a solid KO from this range. Things are looking incredibly well for Tolga. Um, bringing it potentially from the jaws of defeat here. We'll have to
Yeah,
see
Tolga.
what AO can do. if any burn lands, Garchomp's damage will be significantly negated, and that might be what's necessary. Garchomp going for the Swords Dance.
That Swords Dance, incredibly threatening now. Critical hit on the Scald, still not dealing out that burn that it was desperately looking for. Now this Garchomp can definitely run away with the game here, if no unaware Pokemon are utilized by AO here.
Earthquake is enough to KO the Alomomola. I don't think
Sandstorm is
anything
still
can
up.
safely come in.
Volcarona coming out here. I don't think this Volcarona can tank a hit from this incredibly strong Garchomp right now. Did get that +2 boost from the Swords Dance and is still boosted by the Sand Force in the Sandstorm.
Earthquake once
Killing
again.
this Volcarona
As we
here.
saw earlier, it wasn't Sash, it was in fact Boots. In comes Darkrai once again.
Here
However, I
comes
still
Darkrai.
think Garchomp is faster.
Yeah, it did get that +2 speed from Skill Shot here.
There we
And
go.
there you have it.
Toga very definitively removing the AO with Mega Garchomp here. A very good sweep.
Incredibly well set up by Tolga there. Very risky moves by Tolga there to ensure that sweep will stay alive there. Perhaps AO seemed a bit too defensive there. Didn't really have a lot of abilities to KO that Garchomp after that +2 in speed. Incredibly well played by Tolga there. Very close battle though. Could have definitely gone either way, I think. Next up, we will have Kex versus Goose the Great. Goose the Great will confirm that they are ready.
Now this is going to be now this is interesting, as I do believe Kex is technically the manager for Hexagon.
Yeah, Kex is ready. Tolga kind of making fun of their manager here. Probably some friendly banter between the two players.
This is going to be interesting, as we saw some very good defensive and offensive plays here. What is going to potentially be happening next? I do believe Kex is usually a very decent player at this. We'll have to see whether or not my words ring true.
Yeah, but you definitely can't underestimate Goose the Great here. We'll be looking to pull one back for Team Unsorted here. We'll just have to wait for the battle to start to see what both teams bring to the table. Definitely a very good first match though. Well played by both players. Pretty entertaining to watch. So we're requesting that the fireworks be stopped. Perhaps someone getting a bit too excited.
Of course, we still don't quite get insight into their teams just yet. We'll have to see whether or not we'll have to see whether or not what happens here. It looks like we get confirmation now. Hexagon and it looks like the round two will be starting up next. And so it begins. Things are looking to be. Looks like they're setting up now. What insights do you think we could potentially make with these
Oh,
teams?
the
Oh,
battle
we'll have
is
to determine that
underway.
later. And this is interesting. It looks like we are starting off with Scizor here.
Scissor versus Landorus Varian here at the lead matchup. We will have to see what both Pokemon can do to each other, but I do believe Landorus does have the advantage here in this situation. Mega Scissor coming out here. Landorus will be using that U-turn. Not
Now this
dealing
is
a lot of
interesting.
damage to Scissor here.
It looks like we have double Intimidate here, especially from something like Incineroar, which, although very common in VGC, is like pretty much never seen in standard OU play. What kind of this is going to be interesting. What are they running here? here.
Very interesting team here, and that's what we said before the match about both these teams of players here. Not that standard of teams. We'll see what the Incineroar can do for Goose the Great here. Garchomp will be coming in, and now I think the advantage will still be with Kex here, within with the Garchomp versus the Incineroar matchup. Have to see how Goose responds.
I do believe, and do correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe some Incineroar can run Will-O-Wisp.
Very true.
The question remains, is this what this Incineroar is using? And if that's the case, things could be looking to be a little bit dangerous potentially for Kex's Garchomp here.
The
Of
question,
course, do keep in mind this Garchomp will also run. There we go. Garchomp going for Stealth
Stealth
Rock,
Rock.
and it looks like of course the Life Orb bug is still procking. We get confirmation now that it's a Life Orb set.
Yeah,
What
unfortunate
could
for
this
Kex there
be?
with that bug revealing what item he's using, but good Stealth Rocks coming in. We'll see what this Garchomp could do against this Landorus. Obviously, is intimidated now, losing quite a bit of its attack. We'll have to see how Kex responds to this switching.
Now, this is going to be a tough choice to make, as while Landor certainly has somewhat of an advantage thanks to access to things like knockoff and earthquake. In comes the Scizor once again as Landorus takes negligible damage, at least dealing it to the Scizor here. I do believe, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, knockoff obviously not going to be boosted in its damage because Scizor is holding the unknockoffable Mega Scizor item. We have the repeat of the lead matchup here in turn 4. We'll see if both players do the same thing. But I do think Scizor is now favored in this matchup. Probably going to get off a free U-turn here, unless Landorus does stay in.
Do keep in mind though that Scizor is commonly run with Swords Dance. We'll have to see how much damage will come out. And there we go. Scizor going for the U-turn. Interestingly enough, instead we're going for a citrus berry item instead of something like leftovers. That's not something we see often. However, U-turn is allowing it to swap back out for free. It comes to Garchomp once again. Something
Very
to keep
similar
in mind.
situation. Obviously, the Garchomp coming out here, repeat of turn 2. Incineroar now taking more damage. Stealth Rocks are already up, so Garchomp likely going for something else here. It could possibly be a Dragon Claw. It could be anything really. We've seen how diverse these Garchomp sets are. Only thing we know about this Garchomp is that it is indeed not Mega.
Now, this is going to be interesting as at least if we're looking at the VGC item, Citrus Berry is one of the most common on Cinework. Could this potentially be a VGC team?
It could very well be. Landorus, Varian, and Incineroar are both common Pokemon in VGC. Interesting choice though if he did bring his doubles team into the singles metagame for this Pixelmon World Cup here. But I wouldn't say it's faring too badly against Keck so far. Double Intimidate Core obviously being extremely detrimental to any physical attackers Kex will try to use here.
I will say in this situation, Kex is very much in favor here. Garchomp going for scale shot, landing a critical hit along the way. Not quite enough to KO. How much damage is Incineroar going to do here?
That
As
Will-O-Wisp,
as Oh, things are looking significantly worse for Garchomp now. As if it's threatened out, not only will its speed be reduced, back to its normal state. So will its attack boost. But do keep in mind, we saw earlier a potential bug coming out as Gorchomp goes for the sword sense here to restore its attack strength back to normal.
Did get that Intimidate off with Landorus though, so this Garchomp is still at -1 attack. So I think this Landorus will not take a lot of damage of any kind from this Garchomp here, which will be pretty bad for Kex, considering its speed will be back to normal here. And its defense is already lowered. So I think a lot of moves from this Landorus will threaten this Garchomp here. Maybe gonna sack this Garchomp now that its burn has been applied to it. We'll have to see what happens here. Though do keep in mind that Incineroar also took a huge chunk of damage on the fringe of being KO'd the next time it swaps in, and the Stealth Rock's still up.
I would imagine, yeah, I would imagine literally the only purpose that Incineroar can run now is both intimidate and a safe sack. Unless, against all odds, there is some kind of hazard removal here.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I would still say that
There we go, going for scale shot, attempting to sack it, dealing, frankly, still very respectable damage. As Landorus goes for the defog to remove the hazards.
the defog will come out here, and this Garchomp is now incredibly fast. I don't think there's anything in the game that can outspeed it without a priority move. And this
I do think
Landorus, I think, will get KO'd by Skill Shot if it gets 3 hits or more.
swapping into this Tapu Koko as Gortok goes for a
Oh!
sword stance. Oh my god!
Massive Swords Dance from Kex there. Will take that burn damage, but this Tapu Koko now incredibly unsafe versus this Garchomp. Probably looking for that skill shot predict here. Incredible play by Kex going for that Swords Dance. And now this Garchomp incredibly threatening on the field here.
Do keep in mind, I even attempting to pivot between Landorus here and potentially to try and bait the earthquake. I don't think even then it's safe as they would have to be a repeated loop between these two. And at any point, Kex could catch on and catch something by surprise.
Yeah,
Things are
we do
looking.
now know the Garchomp's full set here.
That's very much true. We know it has earthquake potentially and scale shot. We also know it has sword stance. Any kind of fourth move on there will be potentially risking severe damage coming onto any of these Pokemon. The question, of course, is what's going to happen. In comes the Incineroar as earthquake.
We'll
KOs
get that
the.
Intimidate off.
I do believe there is only two more turns left for this Garchomp. Whatever kind of damage it wants to do, it's gonna have to do it fast.
Yeah, but that Incineroar being eliminated here means probably no more Will-O-Wisp for Goose. And no more double Intimidate. So we do now know the full Garchomp set, which will be Stealth Rock, Swords Dance, Scale Shot, and Earthquake with the Life Orb item. So there's no more surprises coming out from this Garchomp, but I would say that it's done plenty of damage. And the third
Is that
Intimidator coming
triple
out here.
intimidate?
The third Intimidator in Gyarados. Perhaps Goose in the past having a bit of trouble with physical attackers, deciding no more nonsense with its Triple Intimidate Will-O-Wisp core. Gyarados will come out here. I think probably a safe way to set up a Dragon Dance of his own, of her own. I do think this Garchomp has now been significantly intimidated into not doing a whole lot of damage here with that triple Intimidate, but that's a interesting team building from Goose here. Could definitely work out. Gyarados probably not being incredibly scared by any of the moves Garchomp can pull out here. And the
Out comes the
swap back into
Ferrothorn. Garchomp goes
Ferrothorn.
for Stealth Rock once again. Tough choice to make as a even though Scale Shot is a resist, it still will be dealing quite a decent amount of damage to Ferrothorn here. Of course, do keep in mind, Earthquake could still threaten major damage as well. But is that something? that Hex wants to go for. The ball is very much in Kex's court right now.
I do think this Garchomp has been significantly intimidated enough, and now the Magnezone will come out, trapping that Ferrothorn with Magnet Pull here. Probably looking for a Hidden Power Fire to take care of this thing. Great swap by Kex there.
Hidden Power Fire
Hidden
KOs the
Power Fire.
Ferrothorn. Do keep in mind though the any kind of attack boost on Garchomp is now removed, as is its speed boost.
Yeah,
So things are looking to be very grim potentially for Kex, as one of his main sweepers has essentially been
neutralized.
removed.
Keep in mind though that Garchomp's still doing massive damage to Goose's team here. Almost basically KOing that Incineroar, doing massive damage to Landorus, and now getting that free swap into Magnezone here. Landorus will come out to threaten this Magnezone, but Landorus is also on very low HP here. Goose's team getting whittled down quite well by Kex here. We'll have to see what both combatants do here.
There we go. Magnezone once again being out. In comes Landorus, a very bold play as Magnezone lands a critical hit HP Fire and KOs the Landorus. That was a very bold decision. There we go. We get once again. In comes the Gyarados. Which I imagine is running Earthquake in this situation. However, is that what Goose wants to go for, or is something else going to be coming out in an attempt to read?
Possibly Goose predicting that Magnezone being a choice Magnezone, going for the Hidden Power Fire twice in a row, and if so, maybe possibly going to set up that Dragon Dance for Gyarados here. Mega
Out comes
Gyarados coming
Magnezone. In
out.
comes the Mega. Gyarados landing an Earthquake and successfully critical hitting the oncoming Kyurem. However, Kyurem is surprisingly bulky in this case. What could what is this Kyurem running potentially? This might likely be the freeze dry set if it's swapping into something as terrifying as this.
Possibly the Freeze Dry set, but with Gyarados Megaing, it will lose that 4 times weakness to Freeze Dry, losing its flying typing for the Dark typing here on Mega Gyarados. And with Gyarados' massive special bulk, I don't believe a Freeze Dry will kill this Gyarados here. So very good Mega from Goose coming out, and we'll have to see what Goose does here.
Actually, something to keep in mind is that earthquake did about 70, I want to say 64%. I'm not certain if another earthquake is enough to KO here. Kyurem going for the freeze dry, dealing significant damage as
Dragon
Kyurem goes for
Dance.
the dragon dance.
Gyarados getting Gyarados even getting the Dragon Dance up. I was a bit confused as well. Now we'll definitely outspeed this Kyurem unless that Kyurem is Choice Scarf, which and it is! Choice
This
Scarf Kyurem here, folks, taking care of that Gyarados. Wow. Great play by Kex.
There we go. Out comes the Tapu Koko once again. Probably enough to remove the probably enough to remove the Kyurem here. However, does Kex potentially want to keep it alive? And more importantly, does he have anything in the back that would be able to handle Tapu Koko? I do imagine that Garchomp, while it is still alive, likely does not want to take a dazzling lead from it.
Yeah. Possibly Kex going to use that Garchomp as a sacker to get a free switch in. Yeah, we
No,
do.
actually, instead choosing to stay in and deal a little bit of extra chip damage to Tapu Koko, potentially a very good read here. Iron Valiant going for the speed boost. I do believe now.
Finally, it will. Goose will outspeed this Kyurem here, but this Kyurem has done a massive, massive amount of damage to Goose's team here, taking out that Gyarados, doing that amazing chunk of damage versus the Tapu Koko. Finally, probably getting KO'd or swapped out in face of this Iron Valiant, but I did not expect that Choice Scarf Kyurem to come out there, Dragon. I don't believe Goose did either.
Do keep in mind, Kyurem can run all kinds of sets. I've seen Dragon Dance, I've seen Sub Roost, I've even and we just have seen Choice Scarf right now. Question remains, I don't think Kyurem is safe to come back in. In comes the Aura Sphere to remove the Kyurem. We get confirmation now this is a special attacking set. What is going to come out to handle this Iron Valiant? That is the question we have. Could Goose potentially come back from this too? As Garchomp is no longer a safe switch.
Yeah, that Garchomp being probably on its last legs here with the burn and the life orb damage, willing it down all the way to around 25% of its HP. Iron Valiant massively threatening on the field right now, and you can see that Kex is really thinking about what he can swap into this. Probably maybe that Mega Scizor coming back out.
That is true. I do believe all three Intimidate setters have been removed. I think the only Pokemon potentially left on Goose's team are Iron Valiant and Tapu Koko. And I'm not certain if Tapu Koko is enough. We'll have to see what if Goose has anything that can handle something like Mega Scizor. Do keep in
Yeah,
mind though, if there we go. If this Iron Valiant somehow lives, Scizor will be taking a ton of damage from anything really, mainly Aura Sphere and Thunderbolt. Bullet Punch isn't enough to deal major damage, not quite enough to KO though, as Auto Pummeling comes out, not quite enough to KO here, which means this Iron Valiant is likely to go down. However, keep in mind, unless the Scizor roosts, this things are gonna be looking very bad.
yeah, but I do believe that Goose is on his last legs here. The Tapu Koko being low, Iron Valiant probably going to get KO'd to this Bullet Punch here. And I don't know if Goose has anything left to deal with. The repeated Bullet Punch is going to be coming out from Scizor here. We'll have to see though.
I imagine unless Tabu Koko is running specs, there is a very solid chance that Goose could bring this back. Yeah, at least if it is specs, it could handle not only Garchomp, which is still in the back, but the Scizor as well. Unless this Scizor somehow miraculously goes for Roost, things could be in Goose's favor here at the very end. Bullet Punch is enough to take out the Iron Valiant.
That Tapu Koko will come out here. Do keep in mind, Tapu Koko neutral damages his Bullet Punch here. So we'll have to see and wait if it survives.
That is true. I did not consider it took a significant amount of damage earlier. Bullet
And there
Punch
we
is enough to
go.
KO. Actually, we got confirmation. Kex had 5 Pokemon remaining.
5 Pokemon remaining. Great battle between these two. I'm gonna move on to the last one of Unsorted versus HexagonMC here. Great battling so far. I do think both matches definitely could have gone either way. Kex edging it out to the finish line at the end there, but great plays by both.
Things are looking very much in favor of Hexagon MC right now. We'll have to see if the final member of Unsorted's team could potentially make a difference. Once again, we get insight now as we bring Fatless Sync in. Now, this is interesting. I do believe we saw Fatless Sync perform very well, at least in their match.
Yeah, very interesting team being brought up by Gusev with that triple intimidate core. But we're gonna move on to the last battle of Unsorted versus Hexagon. We'll have to see what both battlers bring here. Kier Sorbert versus Fatless Sync. Let's see what both players bring to the table in terms of team building here. Fatless Sync looking to pull one back for Unsorted here.
I don't believe I'm not certain if we've seen Kirsch just yet. We'll have to see whether or not this actually holds merit. Of course, the question remains: what will Kirsch hold? What will Kirsch do in this situation?
Yeah, I am unsure if we've seen Kirsch's abilities in a match prior. We'll have to wait and see until we get this match underway here. Both fighters have confirmed that they are ready, so we're going to be starting the last battle of Hexagon versus Unsorted here shortly, so just bear with us.
I do believe that if this is the case, things are going to be looking incredibly unfortunate for Unsorted here. They might this might be the make or break round depending on how things go moving forward. As if there's a very high chance they may already be eliminated from the top 16. Keep in mind, everyone, that is the threshold to move on to the knockout rounds.
Yeah, I do believe only the top two of each group will get through. So, oh, and there
There
we
we
go.
go.
The match is underway.
Fatless Sync and Kirsch are beginning. Now this is interesting. Things are immediately at the advantage for I believe this is Fatless Sync here, as Kirsch has decided to lead off with Heat Rant, a very unfortunate matchup right now for Kirsch. We'll have to see how they decide to pivot here.
Yeah, I do believe our UI is acting a bit weird here.
We'll see whether or not this actually truly holds merit. Now, this is an interesting situation, as if Landers goes for the U-turn here, protecting something else, this He-Man does very much has the opportunity to set up all kinds of things. Stealth Rock, I've seen Magnusor, I've even seen Toxic on some Heat Rans. Oh, that's a bit more niche of a move. Of course, there we go. Landers going for the Earthquake, dealing a little under half of Therathorn's health, as
Yeah, big
let's bring up some
damage.
scores once again. I do think 2 more earthquakes will be enough to KO.
Yeah, unless Kirsch does go for that lead sheet here to get a steady stream of HP back from this Landorus. We'll just have to wait and see here, but unfortunate lead matchup for Kirsch in the beginning. We'll see how he can recover from the situation.
Although keep in mind, if they're immediately running earthquake, this could potentially be a scarf set, meaning Landers might be stuck running this. We're not entirely certain. Of course, Landers is one of the most infamous Pokemon for a reason.
Yeah, Landorus, much like Garchomp, incredibly versatile. Gliscor coming out for Kirsch here, immune to that Earthquake, and now the ball is definitely in Fallen Sync's court as the Gliscor does get that Toxic Orb off. Gliscor also a pretty versatile Pokemon here. We'll see how Fallen Sync responds, but this is going back and forth in the first stages of this battle here.
This is looking to be incredibly tough, as I do believe HexagonMC won a good amount of their matches earlier. And if that's the case, this might be enough to secure themselves into the top position. Out comes the Ferrothorn to bring in the U-turn. That's actually a bit interesting. I've not seen U-turn on Gliscor for quite a while.
Yeah, U-turn coming out there, keeping the momentum in Kirsch's favor as it can send out anything to deal with this Ferrothorn, forcing Fatless Inc. onto the back foot here.
Something to keep in mind, of course. We do know there is Heat Ran. However, how much damage potentially would something like Landorus take in this situation? More importantly, does Kershaw attempt to predict it and go for a double switch? If that's the case. Things are looking very fortunate for Fatless right now.
Hoxapex come out, Eruption from Heatran,
Oh,
not very
eruption of all
effective.
things.
Still doing a lot of damage to this Toxapex here. Now knowing that this Heatran is Eruption, gonna be a top priority for Fatless Inc. to whittle this thing down here.
If that's the case, what could this potentially be running? This choice specs, choice scarf. It could be all kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't know here. That is a significant chunk of damage to a very defensive Pokemon such as Toxapex on a resisted hit.
Zapdos going in for swapping out as Scald comes out, potentially trying to mitigate the damage coming out from uh Corruption here. However, I do imagine if Kirsch gets the correct play here, a major hole in Phallus' team can be made. I would imagine this is either running Heat Wave or HP Ice. In comes the Glide Score as Landers comes in. A very good double switch. Not quite something I was expecting though. We'll
Yeah,
have to
keep
see
in
Kirsch.
mind, Gliscor is definitely going to be slower here, but if both opponents go for U-turn, that can very much work in Kirsch's favor. Both of these Pokemon, very defensive, same typing, probably not going to be able to threaten each
What
other that
on
much.
earth?
A Hidden Power Ice probably coming out from the Landorus here. Wow, did not expect that. Doing a huge chunk of damage to this Gliscor. Will recover a lot of HP with that Poison Heal, but unless if it's running Protect, it kind of has to swap out here. It could very well possibly be Scarf, Hidden Power Ice, Landorus here. Definitely taking Kirsch off guard. We'll have to see how he responds.
Could it- That does make me think if this is HP Isis, could this potentially be a mixed scarf we're looking at here?
Possibly, but that also probably means that one of its defenses is going to be less due to not wanting that minus special attack nature here for our Pokemon veterans here. We'll have to see how tanky this Landorus truly will be. But for now, Curse definitely seems very taken off guard by this Landorus with Hidden Power Ice appearing here. Very good mix-up, I'd say, probably to deal with other Landoruses in the mirror.
There we go. Fairthorn swapping out for Stealth Rock as Medicham comes out. Ooh, this could be what Kirsch needs to be threatening major damage. Although, of course, as always, Landorus is there to neutralize its damage a tiny bit. One Ice Punch is all it'll take to potentially remove the Landorus. I've seen
Yeah,
it myself. I've seen Palmont be able to one hit KO, and Palmont's not even that much of a wall breaker.
yeah, in comparison to what is most likely guaranteed to be a Mega Medicham here, huge amounts of damage from this Pokemon. I don't think many Pokemon are able to take a hit from this thing, to be honest here. So, Kirsch, definitely a good choice of Mega versus most stall teams here. And for most to break through any cores. We'll have to see how Falasync responds here, but I would say once again that the ball is definitely in Kirsch's court here. We'll have to see what he does with it.
Withdrawing Fairthorn. In comes Tapu Koko, though. Medicham going for close combat, still doing insane amounts of damage.
Huge chunks of damage there.
The question remains: is this Medicham potentially running Bullet Punch?
Yeah, if it is running Bullet Punch, I would say that this Tapu Koko definitely won't survive. Very similar situation to the last battle here, actually, where we saw a Tapu Koko versus a Mega Scizor, but now it's a Tapu Koko versus a Mega Medicham. And if both were running Bullet Punch, this Tapu Koko doesn't want anything to do with this Mega Medicham on the field. Interesting choice, though. A lot of Mega Medicham also prefer high jump kick over close combat in certain situations. Most likely won't be running both. We'll have to see what Kirsch can do here, but if that Bullet Punch is coming out, it will force Falasync to swap out. And
There we
there we
go.
have it.
Medicham using Bullet Punch enough to KO the Tapu Koko. Things are looking pretty well in Kirsch's favor here. Potentially trying to go for a 3-0 against Unsorted and potentially knocking him out of the competition. Out comes the
Y-
Ferrothorn, but keep in mind, we know from last time, this Ferrothorn is not safe. I imagine even something like a fighting move like close combat. We saw how much damage that did
Yeah,
last time.
there we
There we
go.
go.
Close combat dealing with that Ferrothorn here. This Mega Medicham incredibly threatening versus any defensive cores that it will come across in its warpath. Now it does have that -2 defense drops in both defense and special defense. We'll just have to see what it can do here. But I would say this Mega Medicham is punching many holes through Fatless's team here. And we'll have to see what he can answer with. Mega
Now, this is the
Medicham
question.
is a Pokemon that if you are ill prepared for, it will definitely run through your team without a second thought. I've lost to Mega Medicham many times in my battling career, so I will know all about this Pokemon.
This is going to be a very tough choice for Fatless to make. What potentially do they have that could counter Kirsch here? Ooh, this is interesting. Toxapex coming out, but chances are we've seen close combat and bullet punch. There's a very decent chance that this Medichamp's running Zen Headbutt as well. I don't think Fatless potentially has anything here that could safely take out the Medicham.
Yeah, now that I think about it, Dragon, Kirsch's team very much did its homework. Mega Medicham punching a hole through many defensive Pokemon we've seen. Toxapex, Fairthorn, Landorus's Gliscor is not safe against this Pokemon. Does
Here's the
get that baneful
question.
bunker.
Out comes the Landorus as Zen Headbutt comes back out, dealing even despite the +1, dealing over half health to the Landorus here. And that was just from a neutral hit. I can't imagine how much damage Ice Punch would do.
Yeah, Landorus guaranteed to be KO'd by any Ice Punch coming its way from this Mega Medicham. Finally, though, Fatless probably getting some sort of relief from this Medicham here, with how much defense it has dropped from using those close combats. Probably would die to a U-turn here, but still, this
Of
Mega
course, the question
Medicham
still remains:
incredibly
is this?
scary.
There we go. Gliscor going for knockoff and removing the toxic orb from Gliscor. We saw earlier that this Landorus is running HP Ice.
Yeah, the question now is though, would a unboosted knockoff kill versus this Gliscor? I don't believe so, from what I've just seen.
That very much is true. We saw it deal negligible damage. We don't even know if this Landorus is Scarf. For all we know, it could be a bluff. And if
Yeah,
it
if
is
it's not
using HP
scarfed,
Ice, things are looking very bad for Kinch right now, for Kirsch.
I would imagine it is scarf if he did swap it into that Mega Medicham, or perhaps there was a bluff from Fatless, and if it was, very well played. But I do believe a Gliscor would survive an incoming knockoff now. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But even so, if it does kill, removing this Gliscor could definitely open up a hole in Kirsch's team for Fatless to take advantage of. But can Fatless recover from the massive damage that Mega Medicham has just done? We'll have to just wait and see what both players decide to do here. And
There we
now,
go. In comes the Charizard, actually. This is interesting. As I do believe there is potentially still a bug remaining with Mega Charizard Y setting Drought. Question still remains though, is this Zard X or Zard Y?
yeah, Charizard due to a UI bug will take massive
Oh my
damage.
goodness, a very bold play actually, swapping in as Gliscor goes for the U-turn here.
Still a regular Charizard though, going for the Dragon Dance, which probably means that it will be a Charizard X coming up, and the reason he didn't Mega is because of a possible Earthquake predict from Kirsch, but a Dragon Dance could be all that Fatless needs to overwhelm Kirsch here. We haven't seen that many Pokemon that would be able to outspeed a Charizard X at +1 speed. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. Kirsch thinking very carefully over what Pokemon he wants to use next. But maybe Fatless can recover here. Medicham coming out. possibly looking for that fake out or bullet punch, but I don't think it'll do a lot of damage to the Charizard X here.
Certainly not. Potentially could be going for something else. I do believe with a +1, I think even a regular Charizard would be able to outspeed this Medicham and very safely take it out with something like Flare Blitz.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Probably the Mega will be coming out now, but unless it is packed in fake out, which would be a bit weird considering
Whoop, there we
the
go.
Mega X will be coming out fake out and bullet punch on the same Medicham, which will likely mean that it is not actually packing Ice Punch here. But now the question
It
is,
isn't
can
actually. We get confirmation now. If it's
yeah,
fake out, Bullet Punch, Zen Headbutt in close combat,
very interesting set from Kirch coming in here. But now I do not believe a Bullet Punch will be able to take this Charizard out. So Kirch will probably have to sack a Pokemon versus the Charizard X. But if a Roost is possibly coming out for Fatless here, that could be huge.
out comes the Ferrothorn once again as Charizard goes for Earthquake, attempting to survive. I do think though that another Earthquake will probably be enough to KO, and even then,
Yeah,
Charizard can potentially be sacked at a later point. I do think with the damage currently in play though, Charizard will either be forced to roost if it has it, or there we go, Charizard going for Earthquake. Now Medicham can safely
fake
neutralize
out.
the Charizard here thanks to Fake Out.
Most likely meaning that this is not a Charizard packing Roost here. Still, though, it was incredibly scary for Kirsch to have to deal with, but now Kirsch has recovered. That fake out will take out the Charizard. Medicham will take another bit of poison damage, basically on this last legs here, but I think it's safe to say that this Mega Medicham has definitely done incredible damage to Phallus's team here.
And
Landorus will be
once
coming
again,
out,
this
and we do know now that this Mega Medicham could not have threatened this Landorus that much without Ice Punch.
here
Gliscor
comes the
coming out.
Gliscor. Oh my
Whoa!
god, enough to
Incredible
KO.
predict. Hyper Hidden Power Ice with that critical hit, taking over the Gliscor here, and maybe Fatless can be running away with the game here. We'll have to see.
Not quite. So I'm going to keep in mind, though, I do think Fake Out is still a knockout from this range. We're not entirely
Yeah,
certain.
I do believe so. And if a fake out won't do it, a fake out plus a bottle punch will do it. Kartana coming out, which
This
if I think it is going to be game over for Fatless here if that Kartana is packing a Choice Scarf.
I think either way, it'll be enough because even if it's not, I do believe Sword Stance Cartana do usually run Focus Sash. At least that's the most common set I have seen. Sometimes they do run Fightinium Z though. So unless this is
Yeah,
there we go. In comes the Toxapex as Cartana
in
goes for
comes the
Sword
Sword
Stance.
Stance. Incredible predict by Kirsch here. I do believe a Hidden Power Ice would have probably killed that Kartana, knowing that Kartana has very little special defense and HP to work with.
We still have to see for ourselves though, how much damage will this Toxapex be taking, and more importantly, what moves might it run in order to handle this Kartana? Because Toxapex does usually run Haze.
Breaknet Blitz coming out against this Toxapex here. Scald.
Not still not enough to KO, surprisingly. And Scald would be removing any kind of focus sash, but we don't earlier now. It is a Normalium Z set. If this if this Landers is potentially Choice Scarf, it might be enough Leaf Blade protecting it from Leaf Blade putting a little extra pressure. However, I do think this Toxapex is likely unable to deal
Yeah,
is still not safe. I imagine this situation though, sacking the Toxapex here might be the key to victory. As if this is a Choice Scarf Landorus, there's a very reasonable chance that Kirsch might be on their last legs. Choosing to sack Valiant instead, which is certainly a decision I wasn't expecting. This is actually a much closer game than we thought.
yeah.
Ooh, there we go. We got confirmation now. Cartana has increased speed.
Very
Uh,
interesting build by Curse there that the Beast Boost will increase their speed. Probably very little attack EVs use for that Cortana, knowing that it does get that speed boost. But now this Cortana is at +2 attack and a +1 speed. Incredibly threatening on the field for Fatless to have to deal with here. We'll have to wait and see if they can respond at all.
is there anything that could be done here in order to actually mitigate this Cartana? I think with hyper offense, at least what we've seen with something like Kirsch, this could be enough to just straight up beat everything.
Yeah,
I think this might be game set and match. However, something to keep in mind though, if Fatless does have anything in the back that can either somehow survive um a +2 Cartana of all things, now would potentially be the time to use it as if there's nothing, Cartana's gonna run away with the game.
yeah, I don't believe Tox Specs will be taken out there. And now Cortana at +2/+2, and I believe only the Landorus is left for Fatless here, and I think we can probably assume that it is game over.
Cartana once again at only +1, but this Landorus is so damaged. I don't think it'll be enough. I think this might be game set and match here, unless there's something that can be done. There we
Yeah,
go.
there
Leaf
we go.
Blade, a
First,
definitive knockout by Kirsch,
yeah,
leaving Hexagon 3-0, and with most likely Unsorted potentially out of the tournament here, unless things go incredibly unlucky for some other teams.
yeah. One thing I would like to analyze on is I think Mega Medicham definitely a very slept on pick for this tournament here. We've seen a lot of Gliscor, a lot of Landorus, and a lot of the normal defensive Pokemon massively threatened by that Mega Medicham. Mega Medicham's weakness is it being not that fast versus other offensive Pokemon, but against most defensive cores, it's gonna blow massive holes for any team.
Of
But
course, I do believe with most common responses to defensive play now being potentially these wall breaking teams, this match will potentially develop like a game of rock paper scissors as we try to determine how and when how each team will be developed. Of course, we do have a game potentially coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes here. Feel free to stay in tune for that. Of course, my name is Delta.
and my name is Tim.
We'll have to see for ourselves how this meta develops once again, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
Yes.